Hello, everybody. Um, we are going to do this a little bit differently today. I've been doing this thing where, I do the streams post match, and then I have to do the podcast, and I say the same things that I say on the stream. So, what we're going to do a little bit differently, and we're going to see how it goes, is I'm going to stream today, which is after the match. And the first half of the stream is just going to be the podcast. And we'll do some questions and audience stuff in there, but it'll be less like me directly interacting with the chat the whole time. It'll be like the regular kind of podcast recap stuff. And then towards the end, we will do the regular stream things. So that's how we're going to try it. We're going to see how it goes. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's how we're going to do this. So, hello and welcome to another episode of Statford Bridge. A little bit of a different theme. We're recording and streaming Sunday morning on the west coast of the United States. Chelsea smashed West Ham 5-1. And it was a game that I listened back, and I don't often listen back to my old podcast because I don't have an ego like that, but I listened back to the post-Palace episode where I talked a little bit about West Ham, and one of the things that I said in that episode was, hey, Chelsea were fine against Palace, and the corners were pretty good, where, oh, nice, we want to get a big software update warning right now. Where one of the things I said about that game was that Chelsea were fine and had a bunch of good corners that on another day would turn into a whole bunch of chances, and all of a sudden it's a really comfortable game that you win super easily. Now, the question, or really the answer, is that West Ham was that game, where Chelsea played basically the same as they did against Palace. Paquetá sticks one in the top corner, similar to the Eze free kick, and Chelsea have a bunch of corners that end up in really, really good chances, and you score them and you win them, and the game is very, very comfortable. And that's where we were. I thought Chelsea played pretty well. 2.7 to 0.7 XG, 12 shots to 12, but 7 big chances to 1. The game is really like 60 minutes Chelsea smash them, they make a bunch of subs and then stop playing. And that's kind of the main takeaway from the game to me. But you go through that and you're like, I don't know, like that's okay. Really nice territorial dominance in terms of box touches, in terms of final third entries, all that sort of thing. West Ham are pretty terrible, and there's really not that much to say about the game side of this, in that like West Ham are a relegation level team, and that's what they're going to be. So winning away from home is whatever. The things that are most interesting to me are, in particular, the lineup. Cole Palmer drops out of the team, but even before Cole Palmer dropped out of the team, we saw the start of both Liam Delap and João Pedro together. Cole Palmer pulls out in the warm-up with a groin problem. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And Estevão makes his first start for Chelsea in a competitive fixture. And the two things that I want to talk about primarily are João Pedro and Estevão, because I think there are two really interesting things. One, I thought João Pedro looked very, very good as not a 9. And if you go back to the original video about his signing, one of the things that I said was the thing that's going to be very valuable about him is he can do striker things from not striker position, so like arrive in the 6-yard box for headers. But he can also do real 10 winger things as a passer, as a creator, as a linker. His assist for the Pedro Neto goal is a really nice pass to the back post. And I don't think Delap had a great game. I think the gushing over his ability to pin the center backs and his movement is like a little bit overblown. Like he took one shot. It was like a knockdown off of a bouncing ball. I thought his link play was not very good. I thought, yeah, he did pin the center backs. Like, that is true. But, like, yeah, I don't know how I think people got a little bit out over their skis with the gushing about what he did. And it is what it is. Like, I think he did legitimately do a good job of pinning Max Kilman, but I think you kind of want a little bit more. And so one of the things to me is like, man, I really hope we keep Jackson. You look at Nico and like imagine the things you could do with Jackson and João Pedro there together. I think would be tremendously, tremendously valuable to this team. The second half of this is Estevão starts for Cole Palmer as the right winger. Malo Gusto starts over Reece James at right back. Again, I really like that Maresca has been so conservative with Reece James's minutes to keep him from getting injured. And, you know, you look at Estevão. Estevão starts as the right winger, but with Gusto as the right back, Chelsea built differently than they would have with Reece James, where now one of the things that was most interesting to me was Gusto was the width holder on the right and Estevão goes inside. After the match, Enzo Maresca very specifically said, we used Estevão in the same position as Palmer inside from the right. And what that says to me is that the plan for Palmer was to start as the right winger to come inside, which means it was always going to be João Pedro as the 10. And that, to me, is something that brings me a lot of joy. That's a lineup I want to see more of. That's a lineup I want to see a lot of. João Pedro or Cole Palmer off the right, coming inside. Estevão off the right, coming inside, with Neto Gittins as your left winger guys. That, to me, is very, very, very appealing. And I thought Estevão was phenomenal. His assist for the Enzo Fernandez goal is like the thing I have been begging our wingers to do, which is drive hard end line and just rip cutbacks. It's one of the things I love about Garnacho is like Garnacho had more cutbacks last season than all of Chelsea's wingers combined. That's really valuable. Estevão has had 2 really big cutbacks in 2 games. He puts one on the plate. It's a 0.8 plus XG chance for Enzo Fernandez. He makes a really, really good run in behind for a Reece James pass and gets a very high-quality chance out of it. Doesn't score, no problem. But we are looking at a guy now who has played 77 minutes plus some added in this game, played 40 minutes in the other game plus some added. So in like 120-odd minutes, Estevão is like 1.5 XG. Now, do I think he's going to be like Mo Salah level XGXA for the season? No, I don't. I don't think he's going to be that. But if he's 0.6, 0.7 XG plus XA per 90, like the ceiling on this team goes crazy. Like if we go back and look at the points projection, which I was working on adjusting this morning, right? One of the numbers for Chelsea was league-adjusted Davies in, Davies out. Estevão put up like 10 Davies, a little bit less than that, in the Brazilian Serie A, like 8 in Brazil. I translated that across as 4, and then because I thought he would play much less, I cut that in half by his minutes too. So he ended up being like 2.3 Davies added or something like that, which is not a huge number. But if he's just going to be as good as he was in Brazil and he's going to play all the time, like if this number is 18, to give you an example, like let's say it's 5 more, Chelsea, instead of being a 71 point team or whatever I predicted, are like a 77 point team. And that's a huge swing. That's a huge swing when we're talking about these big these big projection models. Like if he's actually really, really good, it totally changes Chelsea's ceiling as a team. And I thought Estevão was very, 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 very good. in terms of the West Ham game, like, I really don't have that much else to say. I thought Chelsea were a little bit more comfortable in possession. I think people will broadly attribute that to Tosin. I don't think Tosin had like an excellent game in possession. Like, yes, there were passes that he's playing between the line that are fun and exciting. But a lot of it is like the weight is very wrong. He's overhitting them. He's just like firing them like crazy. I don't think Chelsea being better in build-up was that. I think it's more that West Ham suck and Palace are very good defensively. They drew Nottingham Forest 1-1 today. It is what it is. Other things of note from the match to me, we saw all 5 subs get used. Big fan. If for me, like a nice target for the managers, can you get over 100 sub minutes? And you got over 100 sub minutes. I'm really, really happy with that. Andre Santos coming on 60th minute. Really, really happy with that. Now, Hato coming on for Cucurella to get him some legs. Happy with that. Reece James coming on. Happy with that. Fofana coming back. Happy with that. Gittins, whatever. Now, one of the things that I am cautious about longer term is I really like Gusto as the overlapping wing back. Love that. And as That's Quite Amusing says in the chat, on Gusto right back over James for that overlapping role. James in theory much better, but it's much more demanding on his body. And for what it's worth, I'm happy enough that Maresca is being overly cautious. I think that point is exactly the point. Is I would love to see Reece James in that role, but if he can't do it physically, what's the solve for you? And is it you just have to live with James inside sometimes, or you have to live with James in the back three, or however you want to do it? But it was very clear to me that having the winger inside and the fullback holding width instead of having the fullback inside was really nice for this team. Lord Flacco says talk about that Reece pass. The Reece pass in depth for Estevão was spectacular from midfield. So I think that is really, really exciting. On the subs, I think one of the things I worry about, and somebody said it in the chat earlier, Elliot Sherman said, is Caicedo playing every minute again? Is that the plan? I think one of the things that I don't love is Caicedo is really, really going to play a lot again. And that's great because Caicedo is awesome. Like, I made this in the projection video that, like, one of the things that I was concerned about this season for Chelsea was because they have the Champions League and because they have better depth, but depth that is not as good as Caicedo, Palmer, so on, so on, so on. I think that if Caicedo is going to play all the time, it's going to be very hard to do. And in situations like this where it's 5-1 in the 60th minute, I understand going Andre for Delap to get João Pedro on, and then you want the midfield 3. But I probably would have also done Caicedo in the same moment at that time. I think Enzo you can ride a little bit because you need to work him into fitness. But it is what it is. From that perspective. Now, Chelsea play Fulham, who are currently 1-1 with United as we record next weekend. Fulham have looked pretty meh. They've played United about even. United got a penalty in the first half. Before that, they played Brighton, and I thought were like pretty comprehensively outplayed, and then they get a really, 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 really late equalizer off of a corner. Fulham have not done really any business. They gave Chelsea some trouble last year when they pressed in a 5-1-3-1, and then the second game they played a 4 and they could not hang. I shouldn't say they could not hang. Chelsea won it very late, but they were not particularly dangerous in that game. I would expect Chelsea to handle their business in this game pretty comfortably, is how I would look at it. In terms of things that might give you issues, they are not like a super pacey transition team. So like you're not going to get done in the channel wherever the fullback goes. They're also not a like dangerous team to really play through you. like crazy. The thing that I would be worried about is, as Roshan Suresh says, Fulham's set pieces in this United game have been pretty decent. Cueva needs to lock in. They score off a corner against Brighton to equalize late. I do not know if the goal in this game was also off a corner for Smith Rowe. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. It was not. But Fulham are a pretty solid set piece team. And Chelsea's defensive set pieces so far this season have been just okay. They gave up a couple really, really big chances late on, but we will see how it goes. In terms of the lineup that I would expect for Chelsea, we have no idea where Cole Palmer is at injury-wise. We have no idea. But I would suspect that Chelsea will be pretty conservative with him. And I think that's probably the right call. And so when you think about what is the lineup going to be, I suspect James will come back in to start. I suspect that Estevão will probably get the start again. I do not know if they will go Delap and João Pedro again. Maybe, maybe not. And I suspect the lineup will look very similar to the team that played against West Ham. My only guess would be maybe you get an Andre start for Delap. Maybe you get James for Gusto. Probably get James for Gusto. And that's the one that I would look at in terms of things. But we'll see how it goes. I think Chelsea are in a pretty good place. Like if you look at the points projection, like they're a little bit ahead from what their betting market odds were in terms of how many points they should have taken. I think they were like 1.8x points against Palace. They draw, and you're 1.7 or 1.8 points against West Ham. You win, so you come out a little bit ahead. Like, I have no problem with 4 points. And as Josh Otter says, like, given our fixture list, taking it slow makes worlds of sense. I think Chelsea have been pretty smart about how they have taken things so far. So we will see where it goes from there. In terms of transfers, we got some interesting transfers. Not Mark Cucurella. That's not at all who I meant to talk about. Carney Chukwuemeka is off to Dortmund. That is a deal that is done. I don't know where I put my squad thing. Carney Chukwuemeka is done to Dortmund for 20 plus 5 million. Plus what is being called the significant sell-on. Aaron Anselmino is also going to join Dortmund on loan. Dortmund play back three. They're also very thin on center backs. It is not a move that I would have expected him to play a ton of minutes. However, maybe he's going to play a bunch of the first half of the season, and then that cements things for you. On Carney, I am much lower on Carney than everyone else. I think if you look at his history, and we've talked about this pretty extensively, the dude doesn't play. And like anytime you talk about what he does or doesn't do, it has to be framed in the lens of he does not play. And because he does not play, it doesn't matter what he can theoretically do because he's 21 and almost 22 and has played 13 career senior 90s. And has been a first-team player since he was 16 years old. So in 6 seasons of being a dedicated first-team player, he has played 13 90s. I think if I include the cups, he's played 18 90s. So in 6 seasons of being a dedicated first-team player, he has played 3 90s a season. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what your potential is. It doesn't matter what I think you can do. It doesn't matter what other people think you can do. If you don't play, it doesn't matter. And so Chelsea paid 18 million euros for him in the first place. I thought that fee was high. I didn't love it. They have gotten out profitably. They have cleared his wages off the books, which are reportedly something like 100 grand a week, which is like a very significant wage number. So like 5 million a year on that gone. You've cleared something like 8 million a year in amortization costs. You make a small profit and you protect yourself on upside with the add-ons and a big sell-on. I think this is very good business for Chelsea. And I think the Enzo Mino loan is fine. And as Bad Rabbit says in the chat, Gretel Mino joining a German club fits the story narrative. Tell him to avoid gingerbread houses and trails of sweets. Ansel Mino, Gretel Mino is maybe my favorite Sebsi bit on Twitter. With that, Chelsea have a number of bodies they still have to move out. Raheem Sterling and Ben Chilwell are still there. Nico Jackson's future is up in the air, which I hope it remains up in the air because that means he's going to stay. Christopher Nkunku, no idea where a deal is headed with that. Axel Disasi, Datro Fofana, Alfie Gilchrist, a number of academy players. Tyreek George had links to Roma this week. The last week of the window is fairly important for Chelsea's business. But that's everything I had. So if the chat has questions, we can answer them now, and we'll tack on 5 minutes to this pod, and then we'll wrap it up there. Will Farrell says in the chat, it would be so funny if this was actually Will Farrell, even though it's not spelled that way. What do you think the chances are of Jackson being reintegrated? And I think this is a good question because I think the answer is actually really high. Because if you look, right, Nico Jackson is very good. He's also very selfless. He works really hard and he tries really hard. He presses, he runs off the ball, he runs channels, he holds the ball up and links play for others, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And you look at it and you say, okay, like, how hard is this guy going to be to reintegrate? Well, off the rip, I don't think Jackson strikes me as a guy who has like an attitude about it. Like, I don't think he's going to come and phone it in. The second thing is I think Chelsea very correctly have looked at the striker market and said, we don't really have to sell him. And this is the price for a striker of his caliber. We're not going to sell him unless we get a big number. And I think that's correct. And so when you put in that, like, he's a pretty selfless guy, he doesn't need the ball to be good. He works really hard, doesn't seem to have a huge attitude. Also, Chelsea are going to put a really big number. I think he's not going to move, and I think he's going to stay. And if he's going to stay, Chelsea are definitely just going to use him because he's really good. They're certainly not going to bomb squad him. He's way too good a player, and that would nuke his value. He's way too good a player to do that. So I don't think that's going to happen. So if he stays, I think he will be reintegrated. So I would say the chances are, if you made me a number, I would say 80%, something like that. Sander Green Carlson, in the same vein, asks, if the club moves Jackson for Omega, what would you say? If the club decided next year, like, we're going to move Jackson because we think it's time to move him on, we haven't seen as much progress as we want, we're going to take 65 minutes or whatever, we're going to take 65 million or whatever it is, and then we're going to bring Omega in, I think is very reasonable business. I think across the many competitions, with João Pedro being a flex option as a winger, as a 10, carrying 3 strikers is really valuable. I think if one of those strikers is African and Jackson, you have to carry 3 strikers. You cannot not carry 3 strikers. But I think the way squads are built today, the best place to be is you carry 2 guys who can really only play striker, and you carry 1 guy who can like do 50% of his minutes as a striker. And that's a good place to be. And there's a lot of chat in the chat about a loan with an obligation and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it's entirely possible that something like that happens. I think even loans with obligations, it will be very difficult for the teams still in the market for strikers to come up to Chelsea's number. Like, I can't see a world where Villa can get to 65 without doing like PSR swappy stuff with Morgan Rogers. And if that happens, I'll be real annoyed because I don't think Morgan Rogers is very good at all. Like, Morgan Rogers is a guy who, like, if you watched him yesterday for Villa in a game they are losing against the worst Brentford team since they got promoted, he turned the ball over 15 times and did nothing. Like, there's just not that much there to me. So we'll see what happens there, but I would be very opposed to to something like that. And Bad Rabbit says, I think we're waiting on Newcastle. If Isak goes, Jackson for 80 is fair. And I think that is correct. I think that's going to be the direction it goes, is that it will be, if Newcastle move Isak, Jackson will go there for a big number. I do not think they will end up moving Isak, though. I think they have put their feet in the ground and they are not going to move him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Anyways, I think that's all for the questions that we're going to have on the podcast side. So we're going to call that a podcast there. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like it, share it, subscribe it, all those sorts of things. And we are going to keep streaming. But as always, enjoy the soccer. Okay, that's the podcast done. Now we can just talk. Pastry update. Pastry and beverage update. So I live in Nevada. It is Burning Man is starting this weekend. For those of you who are unaware of what Burning Man is, this is Burning Man. It's like a big festival in the desert, and people make crazy things. So everybody has been, all the burners is what they're called. The burners are, they're in my city today because it's the closest city to where they do Burning Man. And they're all like shopping and doing their stuff. So I did not want to go out yesterday, basically. So I did not, there's no pastry update this weekend, which sucks. It's fun. That's quite amusing, says Cosplay Mad Max. And Charlie Bad Rabbit says, you're getting all the interesting people descending. Yeah, interesting if like the worst people on the planet. They're horrible. They're horrible. And they drive these like big old RVs and then they park them where they're not supposed to, and it's the worst. It's the worst. United Fulham ended 1-1. That's very frustrating, but we'll see. All right. Let's go see what other questions I missed in the chat, and we can make our way through. Corners have been so good, I'm worried about Kieran's other ACL on account of the well-deserved victory lap. Yeah, that tweet was so funny. So first off, let me go find it, because it was pretty jokes. So first off, let me go find it. Yeah, so I said Chelsea's corners are so shit. What do they even pay Cueva to do? First off, look at the timestamp. This game kicked off at 12. I sent that in like the 75th minute. And people were like, what? Second off, like, obviously not real. Like, just search my name and Cueva, and it's like nothing but positive things. So I thought that was so funny. Does this team play faster without Cole? Not a diss on him, still our best player. I do think there is a Palmer thing that is like he's so ball dominant that you like want to give him the ball all the time. That can hurt sometimes, but I don't think it's like him being slow, because I think he has like very good gravity to them release and play to other people, which is valuable. When James plays, how does the team shuffle around? Does he stay in the 3 and Cucurella pick up? Yeah, like I think you can do this, right? But then you're probably not playing Neto as your left winger. Like, this is one of the reasons why I think they want Simons, is so they can do this. Because like Neto can't really do this, and Garnacho can do that, but not amazingly. Or I think it's this, and you end up with he goes into midfield. especially against teams that play a back five. I think that's actually a really good solution. Everybody wants Nkunku, but nobody wants to buy him. Yeah, I don't even know what's going to happen. Bad Rabbit says, has anyone seen any ITK stuff? I know unreliable about where the breakdown was for Jackson and Chelsea. I think the breakdown is Chelsea looked and said, we can move him for a big number. And he said, okay, if you want to move me, I want to go. Which I think is reasonable. Let's see what else. You said on the other stream the model for Chelsea included Simons and Garnacho being bought. If one or both those deals doesn't get done, how does that impact the points prediction? So Simons was worth like 3 goals, and Garnacho was worth like 4 goals. So like if both of them didn't happen, it would be 6, which would take you down like 3 points. If Garnacho didn't happen, takes you down 2 points. If Simons doesn't happen, it takes you down like 1.5 points. Not huge effects. I think we're going to be pretty comfortable, to be honest with you. Like I'm pretty not worried about it. Sadly, we won't pay the wages to Plu, Valenza, Jackson, and to Isak. You know, the more I think about it with Isak, right? Isak has had a tremendous number of injuries. He's about to be 26, and you're going to sign him to like a 7-year deal on $300,000 a week. And I don't want any part of that. Like, the risk is so high. So high. If we had the team right now that like Isak comes and plays 25 90s a season for you, you win the league guaranteed, I'm doing it. But I don't think you do yet. And so I'm a little bit out. Roshan Suresh says, I haven't looked into it much, but if it's true, UEFA is only considering A-list ins and outs, they might need to sell Jackson and Nkunku and just haven't admitted it. Lol. Okay, so here's what I've heard. So the Athletic said, let's see, Athletic A-list UEFA registration. We have gotten from a, let me see. Okay. From the Athletic, they said, blah, 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 blah. Where's specifically? They say it's squad cost ratio. You take the past 3 calendar years, prorate it to 12 months. That means clubs benefits from profits outside of the assessed calendar year, but only by 1/3 of their value. Plainly changes the squads, blah, 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 blah. Domestic PSR. Where's the part where they say the pair also accepted a condition where the list A transfer balance must be positive. List A refers to the list of players clubs must register to compete in Europe. In Chelsea and Villa's case, they must ensure any changes between the list A they submit now and the one they submitted back in February result in a positive transfer balance. The transfer balance is determined by taking the cost saves on players removed and offsetting against costs introduced by adding new signings. These costs basically comprise the annual hit to a club's bottom line and fee amortization and wages. In other words, Chelsea need to ensure the annual cost of their squad submitted is less than or equal to the annual cost of the squad submitted in February. Caveat allows clubs to include 1/3 of transfer profits for the transfer balance calculation. That's significant. Chelsea, who have sold Madueke, Dewsbury Hall, Amugu, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, if you go look at Seb Anderson's stuff, we've heard some things that are like not exactly the same as this. What I have heard is that, so the Athletics say, for example, that you cannot, like the cost removal of the players who left the squad in January or in February, who were not registered in February, which is Renato Vega, João Felix, so on. I think it's just Renato Vega, João Felix, Axel Disasi, all those guys who were not on the squad in February. I have heard that half of their costs count because they were registered for half of that competition's year. They count. They count. So make of that what you will. So when you think about it for Chelsea's calculation, like, yes, Chelsea have added significant costs in Gittins. They've added significant costs in Gittins. They've added significant costs in Delap, João Pedro. If they choose to register Wesley Fofana, that's a significant cost. Like, there's a bunch of them. But like removing Madueke, Dewsbury Hall, Amugu, like, those are very easy. To me, the one I look at is like, if you get Nkunku out of the squad, you're fine. That's the only one. Because Nkunku has a huge amortization cost and a huge wage cost. If you get Nkunku out of the squad, you are fine to register everybody. If you add Garnacho and Simons, you probably have to sell one more guy. You probably have to move one more guy. So that's the way I see this. But we'll see. I'm not super worried. I think what will happen is Chelsea won't register Wesley Fofana because he's always injured, and they're going to say, play once a week and prove you're legit. They're also not, Romeo Lavia is B-list eligible, so it doesn't matter. But I think they will not register Wesley Fofana, and then his huge costs don't count, and you're fine. That's my guess. So we'll see. We'll see. Andy says, do you actually have to move Nkunku, or can you just remove him from the squad? This is up for debate. I have heard that as long as he is not registered, it counts as an out. So Chelsea could just choose not to register him, and it is an out. That is what I have heard. Other people have said that is not the case. I do not know. I do not know for sure. But I would be surprised. Like, I if people are gonna go, it's gonna be like Nkunku. I think Nkunku's gonna go, but it's gonna be like a Sugo doesn't get registered. So we'll see. Count Walsh says, does Edwards have say on Liverpool transfers now? I'm sure he's involved, but I don't know if it's, and I'm sure he has final approval. But he's not like leading it. You know what I mean? DS Footy says, fundamental question here. I am confused. I've heard you say at least twice that goals and assists has a direct correlation to points, something like 0.8. But for every goal, there's an assist. So shouldn't we be having? Yeah. So when I say that, one goal of goal difference has a direct correlation to points. So if you would take your goal difference from 30 to 31, you in theory get better by 0.6 points. It's not quite the same, because if you look at the curve, like, the curve is like this. It's like here, and then it's kind of linear, and then it's not linear anymore. We're like going from 60 to 80 goal difference is not actually going to add you 12 points. Because at 60, you've already squeezed a lot of the points out. Like, you're taking games from 3-0 to 4-0 at that point, as it were. So we'll see. Yeah, it is a goal of goal difference. And so you can add a goal of goal difference by an assist. You can add a goal of goal difference by a save or a tackle or an interception, right? Or by winning a penalty. Like, so the way these possession value models work, like Davies or G+, is you value every event. It's like a big fancy. Let me show you. Let me show you. So you have like, where's the fancy one that I did? So think of it this way, okay? Basically, you take a fancy model. You take a fancy model that looks at every single event, and it looks at, okay, here's a possession that had a pass from this spot to this spot, right? So it goes from the left side just inside your half to the right half space inside their half. And it looks at every possession ever that has a pass like that. And it says, okay, after that pass happens, how many of them end in goals? And so you say, like, okay, the pass gets to this spot, and 6% of possessions that have a pass like that to that spot end in goals. And all the possessions that are in this place before that pass happens, 2% or 3%, in this case it's 3%, result in goals. So if you take the possession from 3% chance of a goal to a 6% chance of a goal with your one pass, you get 0.03 goals of contribution. And then you do that over the whole season and all the things they do and all the events, and you get an idea of how many goals they add. Same thing defensively, right? Like if you block a shot on the goal line, you get a credit for that. If you intercept a through ball, you get a credit for that. If you press and win it on the edge of their box to start a transition, you get some goal value for that. Like the big thing with like effective analytics is like you're not buying players, you are buying goal difference. You are either buying players who give it to you or take it away. Like that's the currency that you are trading in is goals. In baseball, it's runs, but in soccer, it's goals. Because like that's the way you want to do it. So that's kind of where that comes from. So it's not about goals and assists. It's about goal difference created with all of your actions. So like someone like Moises Caicedo who wins the ball back lots, the average turnover is worth something like 3% of a goal because their possession was worth 1.5%. The average possession is about 1.5% chance of scoring. So you take that away because you take their chance of scoring to 0, and then you start your possession at a little bit higher than 1.5% because it starts off a live ball turnover. So you get 3%. If Nkunku or if Caicedo has 5 turnovers a game, he is contributing 15% of a goal every game. And then one of the things you can do if you want to get real crazy is you compare to the average player instead of raw, because like a player just participating will generate some amount of value. And then you can do everything like on a curve relative to the average player. And then so you can see, okay, if the average Premier League team is this is how many goals it adds, this is how many goals it doesn't add. So like you look at Leeds' business or Sunderland's business, where like Leeds added a whole bunch of players that are like not amazing, right? Like they're basically zeros. But their zero is that they're a Premier League average player, and Leeds' squad is below Premier League average, so they add a bunch of goals that way. Something like that is kind of how you approach it. Alex Hanbury Tennyson, which is a fabulous name. We love double-barreled surnames. It seems Cole and Estevão might be two of our very best players very soon. How do you see them playing together? I mean, I think that the boring answer is Palmer plays as a 10, Estevão plays as a right winger. I think that's just like how you get there. I think that's just how you get there. But yeah, I think it is not an easy solution given they're both like optimally left-footed right wingers in a great world. But I think like I bet you Estevão is going to play a bunch of minutes on the left this year. Like I think he's very useful there. Andy says, doesn't it look like Chelsea are buying tools instead of looking at it analytically and buying goal difference? Perfect explanations for Rodgers, Gittins, and Delap. Either that or Shields being a hack. So, like, I think you look at Delap. I think Delap is an easy one where Chelsea needed another striker. They just needed a body who could play as the 9. Who they needed a body who could play as a 9. And the fee is less than he was worth in the market. So, like, from an economic standpoint, it's very easy to do that deal and hold on to him. And if he doesn't play well, you can sell him. But, like, Delap graded out as like basically average. So he came in as like a 0 addition to Chelsea because Chelsea were an above average team. But I think that's inaccurate for him. I think Gittins is like you're paying for potential and tools. Yeah. I think Chelsea are very much. Chelsea made a pretty big bet this offseason. If you look at all of Chelsea's business, like if we pull it up for this summer, João Pedro was like not special analytically at Brighton. He was good, but he wasn't special, right? Like the thing with him was he was a really, really, really good creative passer as a 9, or he was like an okay shot getter as not a 9. But like neither of the things was he amazing at. But the bet that Chelsea made was like, okay, if you play him as a 9 with a much better team around him, he's going to do all this creative work still, but these numbers are going to shoot up. The same thing is true of Delap. Delap had like not spectacular numbers, but you put him with a better team, his numbers are going to shoot up. The same thing you look at Gittins. Dortmund were a bit of a mess. Those numbers are going to come up, so on, so on, so on, so on, so on. That's the bet that Chelsea made this summer, is that like players on bad teams will scale up better to them. I think it's the same thing with like Garnacho. I think Garnacho is like United sucked and he was good. That's going to come up for you a lot. So we'll see. DS Fuddy says, related question, Chelsea winning 3-1 versus 5-1 against Port West Ham. Does the additional goal difference move the needle? Yeah, each extra goal of goal difference beyond the one that wins you is worth marginally less. But like goal difference is the best predictor we have of finishing position. Like if you were to take everything about a team and so you take wages, you take goal difference, you take expected goal difference, you take every stat you want and just plot finishing possession versus goal difference. It's the best one we have. So like that's what you're thinking about. Will Farrell says, do clubs, data teams build whole new algorithms and systems like the Davies system? Does that explain why clubs buy players who don't seem very interesting when looking at their raw data? Lots of clubs do lots of different things. So there's a lot of clubs that have similar models to Davies. We get feedback from some of them to talk about our data. A lot of them, one of the really fun things that people do, actually, if you look at Javi Fernandez, who is now Chelsea's director of data science or whatever his title is, one of the things he did at Barcelona was he built basically a possession model, but also included off-ball data, because if you have tracking data, so like if you think about 2D Football Manager, like XY position, where is every single player on the field? If you have tracking data, you can also see things like Pedro Neto makes a run in behind into depth, right? And because he does that, like we'll do it with the tactical board. So like think about it this way. Gusto is overlapping. Tosin has the ball. This is how they're defending. Estevão makes this run and it pulls this defender here. Now Tosin passes the ball to Gusto, and Gusto receives it here with this much space versus here with the defender here. How much is that run worth by moving the defender here to here? You can do that. You can do that with the math. And so like he did a thing looking at all of Barcelona, and like one of the things I heard was like Pedro added more value off ball than he had on ball. You know what I mean? Which is pretty cool. And then some people use like models for transfer pricing. They use models for league translation. That's a really big thing right now. Different teams have different things. I would say like a team that has their own possession value model is probably like 60th percentile now. I'm certain Chelsea have their own. I don't know that. Nobody's told me that, but I'm certain they have their own special one. what else do we have? Do you have a Davies equivalent for the academy? How would Ryan Kavuma McQueen rank, for example? You totally could build one. I don't have academy event data. I'm sure their academy event data exists. I think Chelsea Youth, when he came on, talked about that it exists. The club definitely have it. We don't, but it exists. So certainly you could do it for the academy. So one of the fun things we did at ASA was because we have all the American leagues. One of the fun things about our tools is, so we have MLS. We have MLS Next Pro, which is like the Academy League. It's the equivalent of PL2 for America. We also have USL, which would be like the championship. We have USL 2 or USL 1, which would be like League 1, and USL 2, which would be like League 2. That's vaguely how the pyramid works. And there's actually quite a bit of movement between all the tiers. So we can see actually exactly like what is the jump from academy to the senior level. So like, I don't know, it's taking forever to load, but we see in MLS the difference between Next Pro, which is PL2, and I would say Next Pro teams are competitive with PL2 teams. Like Chelsea and United and Arsenal, their PL2 teams did preseason in the US a few years ago, and they played against a bunch of the better MLS Next Pro teams. And it was like mostly draws. So like, but what we have seen from Next Pro to MLS, the gap between the average academy player and the average MLS player is about a third of a goal a game, like 0.3 goal difference per game. Like it's huge. So like we see, and then there's replacement level, which is like a whole different thing. But basically if you were to take an average academy player and start them, they would be a first to fifth percentile player in the senior league, which is like really bad. They're one of the worst players in the league. So that is kind of the number I have in my head. To give you an example, I saw some data for Cole Palmer that Cole Palmer was worth something like a quarter of a goal a game above the average PL2 player his last season in PL2. And then he goes to City and was about a league average attacker his first season with the City first team, if that gives you kind of an example. You've talked about how it's much easier to teach shot selection than shot value. What are the types of things you believe are easier to coach than others for non-striker positions? The biggest thing is passing risk. Like if you can get, so like one of the ways to think about this, right, is again, you can take these fancy possession value models. And so like, let's say you take a pass from the center circle to the penalty spot, and that pass is worth a quarter of a goal, but you only complete it 10% of the time. So it's worth 0.025 goals. Like, 2.5% of a goal. Or you can play this pass here and it's worth 0.2 goals, but you complete it 50% of the time. So it's worth 10% of a goal. Which pass do you want to play? And like, you don't want players sitting there doing their times tables on the pitch, but what you can do is you can get players to do the two considerations of how valuable is this pass and how likely am I to pull it off? Where like you think about someone like Bruno Fernandes, and even I brought this up about Xavi Simons. Like one of the things I said about Xavi Simons was his risk profile is fabulous because what he tries are really, really, really hard passes, but they are really, really, really valuable passes. Cole Palmer is the same. They're very, very, very hard to pull off, but if they pull off, it's a goal or a really high quality chance. And so you can get players to think about like, how often can I pull this pass off and how valuable is it if I pull it off? And does the scale tip in the favor of doing it or not? Like that's a big thing is like, can you develop appropriate risk profiles? And also like you have to think about that for different positions. Like for a center back, or a goalkeeper or whatever. Like, think about Charlie Trafford for City plays, and there you go, perfect timing. Bad Rabbit says City's keeper should have done this risk analysis last night. Yeah, like, even if you pull the pass off and he plays the bounce around the corner, everybody's marked player to player here. What is the real gain if you pull the pass off versus what is the risk if it goes wrong? And like, probably not worth it in that situation. You should probably clip it longer or wider or whatever. One of the things like about thinking about soccer this way has been, you see a lot of the like poor analytics teams. So like they don't have money. They're using analytics to make money and to run a team for cheap. If you look at like Barnsley, historically, they've been an analytics team. Brentford, the cheaper teams, they play very direct mostly. They don't play out because the way the math works out is that like to be really good at playing out is expensive and does not move the needle that much until you are so good that you have to do it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the trade-off there. How does Colwell being out for the season? It's like 3 points, something like that. Enzo looks like a completely different player. He definitely looks not the same as he did. Which side is putting Fab on payroll? I don't know. It would be rude for us not to address Spurs doing the Spursiest thing possible and forgetting to sign Eze. Yeah, the Eze thing is interesting. I don't think that signing is going to work out for Arsenal at all. But Chelsea looked into it pretty heavily from what I've heard. That like we called at the end and we're like, huh? And the price was too high, which I think is correct. I will criticize the directors a lot, but I think they have very consistently been super good about not buying expensive older players. They'll do some older guys like Tosin on a free transfer, I think is totally reasonable value, but they're not doing anything dumb, which I think is good. Alex Hanbury Tennyson, basketball analytics has found defense very, very difficult for the longest time. As possession analytics get more advanced in football, do you see this becoming a bottleneck too? It already is. Defending is the hardest thing to look at. Every year you look at the topics for Sloan, for soccer, or for any of the big analytics conferences for soccer, they're all defending. It's the hardest thing to evaluate. I've been working on something for like 3 years with like, should teams press inside to the middle of the field or outside to the outside of the field? And how much does it matter who you're playing or whatever? And it's really hard. And I've never put it out because I don't like it that much. Like, it comes out and it makes sense. Like, it is true, for example, like the coaching theories that if you press inside, so force teams to the middle of the pitch, right? If you force teams to the middle of the pitch, that you will generate fewer turnovers, right? Because in the middle of the pitch, they can keep the ball easier. But the turnovers you get in here are really, really, really good. They're really high chance to score. That is true. And if you press outside, so like you force outside to Cucurella, you generate many more turnovers because you have the sideline as a defender, but the turnovers you get are way worse because you're away from the goal with more defenders in the way. That is true. That is borne out in the data. But now it's like on a what should teams do basis, it's really hard. Like it's so ugly and I don't like it. So I've never put it out. How did the world of data converge with set pieces to such a large extent? Is there an argument not to shoot even from closer range free kicks? No. So it still really likes shots. It also like there are benefits to like doing clever things to make the shots better, but they really like they generally really like shots from free kicks. The big thing is like think about it. Crosses are hard, but now you get the situation where the whole game stops and you can do whatever you want to get the ball into the box exactly how you want it, exactly where you want it. Like it's a pretty good thing. Basketball loves free throws. Like it's a pretty real thing on set pieces. And on the long throws, like the math just loves get the ball in the box. That's what it is. If I had to rank by chances of new strikers end of season, I don't know what you mean chances of new strikers, like number of goals. DS Footy asked that. Let me know, and I'll answer it. Sander Green Carlson, what's the number one predictor for a high goal scoring winger? Shots. Number of shots. City. Who scores the most goals for us this season out of Garnacho, Estevão, Neto, Gittins? That order, in that order, Garnacho, Estevão, Neto, Gittins, or Estevão, Garnacho, Neto, Gittins. I think, in that order. What is the evidence that you have to play out? Could an elite side with the best players not just do the PSG kickoff routine with every possession and choose to play the whole game in the final third? I mean, that's what Dortmund did under Klopp. I think the point now is that the best teams are so good at playing through that you cannot only press. You cannot only press. They will play through and make you get to your end. And then if you choose not to try and play through and just kick long, they are starting their possessions at half now. And they're much more valuable possessions. So like it's a pretty hard it's a really, really, really hard thing. It's a really hard thing to do. In order of goals and assists, Pedro, Delap, Sesko, Cunha, and Buemo, Gyökeres, Ekitike, Jackson. I'll go Ekitike top. I'll go Jackson. I'll do tiers. Ekitike top, Jackson, Gyökeres somewhere. João Pedro, Cunha, and Buemo in a tier. And then Delap and Sesko bottom tier. Something like that. I don't think Sesko is very good. How do I feel about my Arsenal? Actually, I want to answer Alex's question first because we just talked about it. Continuing from that question, for defensive analytics and how it relates to recruitment and assigning individual value, it seems like it's going to be pretty much impossible in football, especially given how rough stuff like EPM can be for defense and how Mori admitted it was difficult even for teams' internal tools. It is so hard, man. One of the things we've done that's not what I want. One of the things we've done at ASA is a thing called G-. So we have here we go. Nope, that's not what I wanted. We came up with like an opposite metric called goals subtracted. And basically the way we looked at it was for a given defensive shape, because Opta tracks formations, for a given defensive shape and for a zone on the field, how much of the defending in that zone do you do? So like in zone 3 here, how often does the left center back win the ball? How often does the right center back win the ball? How often does the goalkeeper win the ball? How often does the 6 win the ball? Blah, 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 blah. And so you say, okay, based on that, we are going to apportion blame based on how often you do the defending in that zone. So like if you take that zone 3, let's say 25% of the time the keeper wins the ball, 25% of the time the left center back wins the ball, 25% of the time the right center back wins the ball, 10% of the time the 6 wins the ball, 5% of the time somebody else wins it, right? That gets you to 100%. And all of a sudden they get a 1xg chance in that zone, or they create 1 goal of value. The keeper is going to get minus 20.25. The center back's going to get minus 0.25. The center back's going to get minus 0.25. The 6 is going to get minus 0.1, right? That's how it gets blamed. And then you do that for everything, and you can kind of see how much blame do they get. So like we have, like, here's Diego Chara. Diego Chara is a defensive midfielder. Based on the shape that his team plays in his games, by each zone, and by game state, because it changes by game state, here is how responsible he is for each zone. So you can see like this zone just inside the center circle, 21% of the time he's the guy doing the ball winning there. So for all the value that passes through that zone, he gets 21% of the blame. And so you can kind of do this whole thing, and you can see who lets the most value through versus who is the giving you the best value the other way, and blah, 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 blah. And you can see exactly how much it is. But the defensive analytics are so hard. Like we call defending and defending interrupting is what we call it. So like blocks, clearances, interceptions, tackles, aerial duels, all that sort of thing. We call it interrupting. But we see if you plot team or player interrupting G plus against team performance, you're worse. You're worse. Like they're negatively correlated. The more interrupting you do, the worse your team is. And the answer for that obviously is the more interrupting you do is because you have to defend more because your team is bad. So it's like a pretty weird thing to trade off. It's very, very hard is the point that I'm making, and you are right to think that. How do I feel about my Arsenal prediction now that Havertz, Saka and Odegaard went out with an injury as well? Is Madueke, Gyökeres, Eze enough? I think they'll be able to weather the storm more, but this is like if it's a really serious injury, like that points number is going to drop a lot for all of them. But this is like Madueke with Saka insurance. Like that's why they did that deal, right? Like that's the whole point of it. Who do you think will get if Jackson goes? Oh, no. Oh, that was their thing. Never mind. Is there a signing you wanted to make this summer that we haven't been linked with? Barcola. Bradley Barcola. And Bad Rabbits correctly predicted that I would say Barcola. Yeah, it's Barcola. No questions. No questions. I missed the beginning of the podcast. Did you break down at all how Paqueta managed to get a shot off without being challenged? So if you watch it, I'll just show the clip and I'll be real careful about it. Let me see. Let me be careful about this. So if you watch Caicedo, the way he approaches this situation. So like they win it. Caicedo is like locking them here, right? Because as much as like, yes, this is a dangerous situation, 1, 2, 3, 4 against 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. Like this is fine. And you can watch Caicedo. He stops his feet. Like, you're not coming inside. We're forcing you to play out wide here. And so all he does is he just funnels him into the channel, and it's like, and then he goes to close. Like, this is fine. You will just live with this shot 100 times out of 100. Like, no one even challenged him. He could have just walked in. Mate, he is 30 yards from goal on the angle. Like, you just live with it. Like, you're so fine with this. I thought Sanchez should have done so much better. But like you're totally fine with that as a way to manage that transition. You're totally okay with that. Nobody will be mad. Andy says, "How much are we going to regret Rio and Gamoa?" I mean, he looks really good. I hope. I hope that we don't regret. That's a weird question. Whatever. He's going to be good, but I don't think. I think the reality is when these players move at 16, it's hard to be that mad or to be too regretful. Like it happens. It happens. Like, yes, I would love if at 16 years old we picked every single best 16-year-old in the country, but you're not going to. So it's fine to me. Yeah. So we'll see. Alex Hanbury-Tennyson says it's so tough not to have statistically significant on-off data. It seems it makes it way tougher than basketball. A lot of screening, indirect defensive actions being missed by the tracking can be mitigated by on-off somewhat, especially leadership on pitch, court ordering, stuff like that. It's true that it is one of the biggest weaknesses of soccer analytics is that you just do not have enough substitutions to do good on-off data. Like we a long time ago tried to do let me see. We called it Wowie. And it was like a plus minus. It was an on-off thing. And it was like with or without you. And this is Diego Valeri and Zlatan and Carlos Vela. And I don't know who that is. We did a whole thing. But like it's so hard to do on-off stats. There's just not enough subs. It's not enough subs. I'm less worried about Caicedo than I am about João Pedro. If he continues to chase Paqueta down instead of veering towards the center, Paqueta doesn't try to shoot, but it's a free shot anyways. And Randolph White says, I thought João Pedro should have closed down. Yeah, maybe. Like, there are things you'll want to do differently, but I broadly am cool with it. Bad Rabbit says, it looked odd, but the keeping took me back to peak Kepa days. Yeah, it was I said that to somebody else, that it felt like a Kepa thing. It felt like a Kepa thing. How much Ryan McQueen from the academy have you watched? I'm not sure where he would play in the senior team. He's like a legit wide forward, like all left foot, just absolutely murders the ball. I think there's a lot of scope for him to play in the first team. Maybe not right away, but I think there's a lot of scope for him to play. And he's a legit good player. I would be very surprised if he did not make his debut this year. That's how I would look at it. I don't know if you have any sports science expertise. I do not. But is there value in having Cole sit out for a month just to get himself healthy? It feels like he's been playing through an injury since January. Yeah, somebody asked me about this on Twitter. They said, like, if he's out 2 to 6 weeks. I think it was Ryan Islam actually asked me about this. Like, if he's out 2 to 6 weeks, what do you do? And, like, honestly, if he's out 2 to 6 weeks, it's probably good for him. Like, just, he's got to relax. He's got to chill. He's got to take a break, have a real off season, come back, and you'll be fine. I think that's a totally legit way to approach it. Does a data-backed betting model make money? I remember hearing you saying you have one. I mean, I have a team strength model, which I use to gamble. I bet on United to win today, so I'm 8 for 10. I make 5 bets a weekend. I am 8 for 10 so far. I am plus 7.5 units. Plus 8.5 units? Plus 7.5 units from betting 1 unit a match. So, pretty good so far this season. What have I made of Euro? How high is the upside? I think he's good. I think they probably paid too much money for him. I think the thing with him is, like, he can't really pass, and he is very reliant on his physical tools, which is fine. Sir Valerian, any way we could tell you about it? Absolutely not. Never. Here's the thing. I think I'm right, but I'm never going to put that out there because I think it's kind of gross. And if I'm wrong, and you lose money because I was like, I think this is smart, I would hate that. And 2 and 3, I guess, I think, like, I do it for fun, right? Like, I'm not a professional bettor. I do it for fun. I think, like, broadly, gambling has a deleterious effect on sport as a whole. Like, I broadly think it's a bad thing that it exists. Somebody earlier in the chat said, guy who gambles on soccer lives in Nevada. The annoying thing is, like, gambling here is harder than it is in Canada. You have to pay taxes on gambling winnings in the US. You do not in Canada. And in Nevada, the online gambling is, like, very restrictive because they want it to go... They want you to go into the casinos. So it's very different. Will Farrell, tell us your bets and do some Huel adverts, Kieran. Just wait, buddy. One day this channel is going to get monetized, and I'm going to be sponsored by, like, Visit Venezuela, a crypto exchange, Huel, draft. We're going to have a DraftKings code. Use Kier at DraftKings for $25 off your first bet. Can you imagine how dumb that would be? No. I'm not exactly a moral paragon, but, like, I don't think I would run gambling ads. But we'll see. Hato's also very one-footed. I thought Hato sucked, man. I don't think he looked good. I don't think he looked good at all in his sub appearance. I didn't want to say it in the podcast part because I don't want to just, like, we won 5-1. Like, I'm not gonna rip on the sub who came on when the game didn't mean anything. Quick sip of fuel during this speech. No, it's a Pepsi Max, which is like the zero sugar Pepsi. Servalarian speaking of visit Venezuela, that's one of the fake ads in the FT Run a Football Club game. Did you see that play? Yeah, I did play that. That's why that was in my brain. I did play that. It's kind of weird though, because like no matter what you do, the season goes the exact same. So like the way to get the best score is to be the most horrible person, sell all of your players, buy nobody, and sell all of your players, buy nobody, take the worst possible sponsorship, like all of the things. Do the worst thing possible. Sell your homegrown player, sell everything. All of it. Like it's a super dumb game. It is what it is. I've seen my favorite socialist NBA podcaster sell out to FanDuel. Who is your favorite socialist NBA podcaster? There are a few. You could mean multiple people. Hato and Gittins look terrifying. I don't trust either of them. And Randolph White II says, I think Bowen had Hato tangled and twisted a couple times. Yeah, I mean, Gittins worries me less than Hato. I think Gittins is further along. The other thing is like he's an attacker, so like it just doesn't matter as much if he's bad. And Gittins is also like fast. Like if games open up, he will have space to run and do things. I think the thing with Hato is like it's just gonna take time. Like he's young, he's not terrible. I think he's like pretty rubbish defensively. Not rubbish, that's not true. The thing I said in his video was that I think he is overly reliant on his physicality and he goes to ground way too frequently. And those are generally bad traits for someone transitioning from a league like the Netherlands to the Premier League, because in the Premier League, everyone is fast and everyone is strong. And that's the reality of the Premier League, is like it is the most physically talented league. Like West Ham suck. Wan-Bissaka is an animal. That guy is a crazy athlete. Crazy athlete. James Ward-Prowse is slow and cannot run. And if he played in Italy, he would be a speedster. He would be a Mezzala, like shuttling 8. Like it's just different here. So my worry with Hato is like he's very reliant on his pace and his ability to go to ground, and like that's a big risk. But he's young and he's played a lot of football and he's not bad. Like it'll take some time. It's fine. Caicedo Thiago also had bad first games. He's a development project. 100% he is, and that's okay. Again, Renato Vega was good enough to like eat some fullback minutes. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. He'll play against the promoted teams and he'll play cup games and it's fine. Let's see what else we got here. Yash Mishra just wanted to know your thoughts as to whether we improve if Xavi x Nacho happens. Would rather keep Jackson and Nkunku. I would rather do Jackson and Nacho, number one. And then I'd probably rather do Jackson and Xavi Simons, number two. And then Jackson and Nkunku, number three. And then Xavi and Nacho, number 4, I guess. Something like that. That's probably the order I would do it in. I'm just like not that into the Simons deal. He's a fine player. I see a lot of bust potential in him. Like I think he's very undersized. He's very undersized. Oh, there you go. Roshan Suresh. No matter how good a prospect you are, coming from the Netherlands increases bust potential by like 15%. So it is what it is. Yeah, like I feel the same about Simons. Like he's so undersized and the Bundesliga is so open. Like maybe he's actually not as good as a passer he looks. Like Wirtz, I thought looked not very good in their first game. So like, let's see. Let's see. I hate when Sebsi is right about some of our players. Usually he's spot on about how bad they are. I mean, I don't think that's true. Like, I think he's right about some and wrong about others. He has a pretty good, like, Seb's a smart guy. He's got a pretty good hit rate. I think he is overly, like, he didn't think Estevão was that good, and he's currently revising that opinion in real time. But like his opinion on Estevão was much lower. Like he called him Brazilian Scott Sinclair, and now he's pretending it was flippant, which is fine, but that's not really accurate. So it is what it is. And like I think Tosin has been probably better than he expected. I also think he's like wrong. He thinks Caicedo is not that good. I think that's wrong. He calls Enzo fat, which I think is weird. I don't love that, but it is what it is. How did Maresca survive with Sancho, Neto, Nani as his wing options? Well, Nani's good, but is there any non-caveman brain to being worried about Wirtz, given Havertz slightly underwhelming, looked like a top 5 potential player coming out of Bayern? I am very into I am not anti. I am very worried. Not worried because he's not my player. I don't care. I don't think Wirtz is that good, is the thing. I think he's good. But like the possession value models have never liked him as much as his XGXA has liked him. And usually that's a weird thing. Like that's very uncommon. He's already had an ACL at his age, which like maybe that is a thing. Maybe it's not a thing. I like think that's a big risk, but he's so young. You're probably fine, and Liverpool are good, so you're probably fine. But it felt like a pretty big risk to me that I wouldn't have done. 5 out of 6 international loan spots. If you had to bet who takes it the last one, are they saving it for Datro Fofana? I don't know. I don't know who the last one is for. Maybe Nkunku. If they do end up doing loan plus obligation for him, maybe Disasi. I imagine it'll be like an emergency loan. The two English, Sterling and Chilwell, will end up having to do loans. Because they're not going to move them. The Scott Sinclair thing is an old sub bit because he liked that guy. I didn't know that. Interesting. Let's have some Estevão chat. How good do you think he looked? I thought Estevão in Brazil was like the thing I said about Estevão was like he is going to break every statistical projection model because there has never been a player as good in Brazil as young. He put up legitimately Neymar numbers at 17 when Neymar is 20. And I had nothing. Like if you go look at my projection for him was like 12 to 15 90s. 12 to 15 90s. And he would put up like 5 or 6 goals and assists. And like clearly that's just so wrong. And the reason I projected it out that way, like if you can go, let me go back and find where's the Estevão one. So like if you go back and look at it, I show like here is like Vinicius, Rodrigo, the other guy who signed for Real Madrid, Endrick, who was the other guy? Reinier. Like you look at all the other 17, 18-year-olds who moved like young, who moved to Europe. None of them played that much, and none of them were that good. And a lot of it is like protecting them for their development, letting them bed in a new country, blah, 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 blah. Gabriel Jesus is another one. Like there is no precedent for him coming and playing. There's no precedent for him coming and playing 25 90s and being a 0.7 XG plus XA player. Like you couldn't the craziest pro Estevão guy. No, because there were people like that, but like the most pro reasonable person would not have been like, yeah, he's going to be this good, this fast. And again, maybe it's 2 games. Maybe like he gets smashed the next game and that's a hard thing for him. I don't know. But like he is so far ahead of anything you could have possibly projected. Anything. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm really excited. Like the cutback and the passing and the shot getting like is very, very clearly very real. Clearly very real. And that's I'm glad that I hedged for myself with the Club World Cup, that I was like, he's doing this against real teams. Like, actually, he might be way better than we think. He might be way, way, way better than we think. Will Farrell says, do you think how good he's looked explains the Nani deal more? 100%. 100%. I think that him having a crazy Club World Cup, they were like, oh, actually, maybe we're a lot more open to moving him than we think. I think that's a totally reasonable thing. I do not know if that is the case, but that is certainly how I felt. Is that like my temperance or my feelings around Nani moving mellowed the more that he played at the Club World Cup and looked very, very good. Cucurella stuff. Can't wrap my head around putting Cucurella in the 10 spaces when you could just put a 10 there. Seb is more concerned about being right than being honest. He was the biggest critic of Cucurella. While I agree his defending isn't the best, he makes me proud when he plays for us. He did have a point on his 1v1 defending, has actually changed his hip alignment. Yeah, I mean, my thing with Cucurella is like, I think he is a fundamentally limited player. Like, I think he is like a 60th percentile left back. The problem with the Cucurella deal is like, one, the things he's good at are like not that valuable. Like, he's not a great passer. Like, the thing Cucurella is really good at is like, he is very, very good at collecting second balls. He's like, and he's like just good or just okay at everything else. Like, he's not a bad defender. He's not a bad passer. He's not a bad crosser. He's not good at any of those things, but he's like acceptable, which means he can play left of a 3. He can play wing back. He can play inside. He can play left of a 4. All of them. He can do it all, and it's fine. He's not amazing at any of them, but he's fine. He can do them all. That is valuable. It is like, yeah, it is fine. So I think like that stuff is real. I think that stuff is I think the critiques of him are real. Like, he's just not that good, and he's compensated very, very, very expensively. I got a lot of pelters on Twitter for saying I think the Cucurella extension is going to be really hard to do. Like, really, really, really hard to do. And I said something like, I thought it would be very difficult to do, specifically because Cucurella is, I believe, 27 or about to turn 27. Come on. Yeah, so just turned 27. He has like 2 full seasons after this one left on his deal. So at the end of his deal, he's 30. He already makes a big number. So now you look at it and you're like, okay, you're going to extend him to the end of his age 30 season to the end of his age 32 season. What's the wage number on that? Because he already makes a lot of money and you're extending him through his peak years. Like, the contract he gets at 32 is going to be smaller than this one. He's probably going to want a really big wage number. Like, I don't know if I would do that extension right away. I think it's going to be really hard to find a number and a length that both sides are happy with. And when I said I was concerned because it got done very quickly, people were like, well, you said it's going to be hard to do and it was fast, and now you're worried. You were worried it was going to take long, and now you're worried that it was fast. And I wasn't worried that it was going to take long. I just thought it was going to take long. And I'm worried it was fast because it means you gave him everything he wanted right away, or he gave you everything you wanted, which I find difficult to believe. So we'll see. Alex says, I think that versatility is a manager's dream and is always something that feels way more valuable to them than us bystanders. I totally agree with that. It's a big thing for me that I love. I love. Any idea what the plan? Oh, somebody said Paiz stuff. Yeah, let's talk about Paiz. I think Paiz is definitely going to spend more than one season there. I did not watch today. Did he actually play as a wingback? I don't know. Also, hold on. Where is this? Nope. I don't know what happened there. Anyways, did Paiz actually play as a wingback is what I want to know right now. But I think like he's gonna need more than 1 year for sure. The 0% chance that he comes back to Chelsea next year. I would be very surprised if that was the case. Very, very, very surprised. We'll see. We'll see on that front. What else? What else I got in here? Somebody said Sarr was good in this game too, which is interesting. Wassa says a lot of leagues are way better than I thought. Have been really watching the Champions League qualifiers, and there's so many league shocks for me. Yeah, I think like especially in the like FBref calls them the next 14, so like leagues 6 to 20 in so MLS, Brazil, Argentina, Portugal, Belgium, Netherlands, so on. Like there's a lot of legit really good teams in there. Let's see. Sir Valerian says, I remember you saying that the best part of Cucurella is that he's another body in midfield you have to mark. Yeah, like when he inverts, that's the whole thing. It's like you just have to mark him, which is more valuable than he adds as a passer, right? Like if Cucurella stands right here, you have to mark him because he's close to the net. And that's more valuable than he is as a passer sometimes, but we'll see. Thoughts on Neto? Thought he's kind of crap since he arrived, but he's making him useful somewhat. Loved his goal. Yeah, it's a really good goal. He just needs to consistently do that more. I like him so much more on the left than the right. What is the model prediction for the Chelsea-Fulham game? They seem to be fast at transitions. I don't think they really are, but it'll depend. I wait for the manager interviews to see who's going to play and who's out to do it. But I mean, if we look at the pre-match odds, I would bet Chelsea at home are probably like a 70% favorite. Let's see. Minus 210, so like 67%. Something like that. Like pretty big favorites in that game. So you're talking about 2.2x points, something like that. Got to win. Definitely a win game. Umar Ashraf asks, what about Kenda? I think Kenda's another one I would be pretty surprised. If he is at Chelsea next year, I would expect he'll do another loan. Particularly given he's not starting and he's mostly playing as a wingback. He looks good, but it's like sub effects against pretty terrible Portuguese teams. Like I would expect he will spend a year at Strasbourg for sure and play left wing back. I think very, very high probability. But we'll see. What are a few examples of players you really liked that actually ended up going to Chelsea, and some that ended up going to rivals and haunting us? Players I really liked that went to Chelsea. I really liked Havertz. I thought that deal was great. Didn't work out. I really liked Werner. Thought that deal was great. Didn't work out. I think. I'm trying to think who else. I really liked Nkunku. Thought that deal was great. Didn't work out. So there's another. Just stop. If I like a player in the Bundesliga, don't get them. How about that? That's my takeaway. Loved Caicedo. That has been home run. Trying to think like recent years, other guys that I really liked. I thought Jackson was a great deal. That one has worked out pretty well. Who else in recent years? And who's gone to a rival that I'm like, I wish us. I don't know. There's not that many. Like Doku to City is one I loved. I loved for them that I was really jealous of. That's quite amusing. Says, did Havertz and Werner not work out? We won the Champions League and at least got the money back on Havertz. It's fair. And Nkunku's poor work rate is the issue, not the on-ball stuff. The other thing is Nkunku like broke his leg when he got his knees are wrecked. Cherky's one at City. I definitely regret. I really liked Rafinha. Wassa says Rafinha I didn't want. I really liked Rafinha actually. I thought as like that winger playing right winger, I thought he was going to cook, and it didn't happen, obviously. But I thought that was going to be a really good one. So we'll see. Chelsea Youth's here. G'day. What are your thoughts on how the 5 sub 9 bench era affects squad building decisions with PSR context thrown in? Early assumptions were that it would be good for academy pathways, but ... I think 5 subs is net good for everybody. I think football is so much faster and harder that more subs are good. I think for academy players, it probably has netted good. In terms of like, I don't know if I don't have data to back that up, but I feel like that would be true. I think one of the things with 9 bench is like it has become easier to carry bigger squads of legit senior players, because when you could only dress 18, if you have a squad of 25 and you can only dress 18 and it's 7 guys not being dressed every week instead of 5, I think it's a lot harder to justify. But I think broadly 5 subs is good. I think the thing, if you went to 7 on the bench, most managers would not use all 5. They would much less frequently use all 5. But 5 subs are good. Wassa says, I think the managers still crazily underuse the 5 subs and are very inefficient. I believe the average number of substitutions made by all managers in leagues with 5 subs is like 3.9. Something like that, 3.8. I think they just make them late. Like, I just wish they did it earlier, all the time. Shreyas Ramani says, I feel like teams are just not taking advantage of the sub rule yet. There's no reason to be waiting until the 60th, 70th minute. 100%. 100%. To me, so if you looked at the old data on like optimal sub timing in the 3 sub era was like 53, 67, 78, something like that. And I think that's probably still the optimal sub timing, but I would just do like 2-2-1. Like I would do 2 at 53, I would do 2 at 65 and I would do 2 at 80, and I would do 1 at 80. Like, I think that's just the best way to approach it. Like, I look at, even like, you look at, like, let's take Chelsea West Ham, right? Or let's take Chelsea Palace, because like West Ham, you could do whatever in that game because you're up 5-1. Who cares? But if you take the Palace game, first half didn't go that well. You look at the first half, you're like, I could probably do some guys at half, but maybe I'm not going to do anybody right away. So you get to 53. You give the players that you want to remove, which is Gittins and Enzo. You give them 7-8 minutes, see if they've fixed it. If they haven't fixed it, boom, Gittins, you're off for Estevão. Enzo, you're off for Andre. Done, no problem. Then at like 63, 65, 63, 65, you're like, all right, James is starting to hit the window. I want to bring another winger, or I want to do another fullback, or I want to get another midfield legs. Like, you do 2 there. And it's very easy to do, I think. And then the 5th one, you do whatever. I think teams could be significantly more aggressive with like the fresh legs and the winger, the fullback, and the guys who are pressing, really. It's just hard, man. On the Caicedo note, if we hadn't signed him, who was your backup? I remember back then worrying because there was no other defensive midfielder who had the right balance. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't remember who I was like into back then. I liked Onana at Villa, but not that much. Luka Gorna Duath was a player I liked. Shek Doucouré, who ended up at Palace, I really liked. He was a good one. Doku has 1 assist in 1 year. Doku's gross. I will not hear any Doku slander. Were you a fan of Koundé? No, I really disliked Koundé. What was the other one? Shreyas Hermani wanted to ask about Enciso, and I want to talk about Enciso. Are we supposed to believe that Enciso is going to play for Chelsea next season? His metrics look terrible, especially his shooting. I think the way this is being reported is very weird, and I think Chelsea are going to be pretty mad about it, because I think there is a 0% chance that Enciso plays for Chelsea next season. I do not see it happening. I do not think it's real. I suspect that, much like the way it is reported for City Football Group, is that the player agents want it to be known that you are being involved in Chelsea's project more than it is Chelsea saying, yeah, we want him. I think there is a 0% chance that that is the case. On Enciso as a player, the thing that I really like is he takes so many shots. He takes so many shots. 1 second. And you can teach players to take better shots in terms of selection. Everything else is whatever. A lot of it is like where he played. Leicester were terrible. Or Ipswich, were terrible. Like, I don't know, whatever. As like a low-cost gamble, sure. How do you take 4 shots a game for 0.21 XG? Bro, let's look at his XG per shot. It is first percentile. It is so bad. So bad. So bad. But yeah, that is what it is. What else? Do I still believe Madueke is better than Kudus? Yes, I would much rather Madueke on my team than Kudus. Red flag on his most similar player. Yeah, but so here's the thing. Red flag at his most similar player. But it's the same guy, but for 12 million instead of 70 million or whatever. So like, yeah, take the punt at 12 million. No problem. No problem. That's a good one, I think. Liking Lucas Gorna Duath and disliking Koundé is insane Seb sea glazing. LGD has improved 0 from the age of 18, and Koundé has scaled up like crazy. I mean, the thing I would say is that Koundé has improved a lot over the past 2 years when Chelsea were interested in him. That is very true. But at the time, like, there was not that much there that I particularly liked to see. He was an unreliable center back who often got punted to fullback, and now he is a good defensive fullback. Like, that's fine. I had no real interest in him at Chelsea for those reasons. And LGD, again, like, this was 3 years ago. Like, again, think about where this was 3 years ago, where he's had 2 weird seasons. Actually, at the time, he'd had 1 weird season in Austria, like, had not quite kicked on, and I was like, it's a low cost gamble. Like, this is something I would probably do. Again, like, it was 3 years ago. Like, you have to view it in that lens of 3 years ago. Now, no, I have no interest in Grenadier. There's some other guys, like, what's his name, Quadio, or what's his name, Manu Kone, the one who was at Mönchengladbach. Yeah, Quadio Kone. Really liked him. He was another player that popped for me at Gladbach that I really liked. He's been pretty good for Roma. I don't know, lots of guys. Umar Ashraf, should we sign Garnacho and Xavi? Would really like your thoughts on this. I would add Garnacho to give yourself another winger number on the left, and I think he's very different than all the other wingers you have. He's a much more shot-heavy box arrival guy. I think with, like, Estevão on the right or Palmer on the right, like, you need that left winger who's going to arrive at the back post, which is not Gittins and not really Neto, though he did score that way on Friday. And the Xavi Simons one, I'm not super keen on doing it. But if you were to move, like, if you got all of the outgoings you wanted, Disasi and Kunku, so on, you got all the outgoings you wanted, I would have no problem with doing it. But it's fairly low on my priority list. I think he's a good player. I'm glad we're not buying a center back. Those are the things. Somebody asked what I think about Ruben Amorim. And I DS Footy, thoughts on Amorim. I think the wingback formation doesn't work. Any current examples of success? One of my hypotheses why Chelsea sucked 2017 to 2023 is we played 3 at the back. I think it's very hard to win the title in the Premier League playing a back 3. But I don't think it's anything. It's just, like, extremely physically demanding. And it's very hard to have the level of, like, physical domination for the 2 midfielders in the Premier League that is necessary. But you can do it in other leagues. It works significantly better. But I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think the problem with Amorim is that, like, defensively they have not been able to construct a real, like, even remotely effective press yet. And their build sucks so bad. So bad. Like, they have no ability to sustain pressure with the ball. That's the real thing. Andy says, do you buy that Yankuba Mente is going to be a star? I have a feeling this guy's going to be a 90 million plus sale for Brighton. The data likes him a lot. I like him somewhat less. I think he is, like, firmly a tier 2 right winger. Like, I don't look at this and I'm like, he's going to explode for a better team. I'm like, he's a good young player and that's fine. I think it's okay. I would bet against a 90 million plus sale for him, but I would bet on, like, a 50 million sale for him. But I would bet against the 90 million sale. I think he's in that weird zone that, like, Matoma's in, that, like, he's good enough that you're going to want a big number, but he's not so good that you're going to get the huge number. You know what I mean? like the one that I look at this summer that I'm like, I don't understand how he went to Leverkusen for a low number is Bakayoko, where like this dude took so many shots and was like very good in Holland at a very valuable skill set, and he moved for nothing. Like, I don't understand how one of the, like, Brentford bought Anthony Malambo, who is just objectively way worse than him, for like, I think Anthony Malambo moved for like 20 million, and I don't think he's as good. So I don't know. It's irritating we don't have a flying right wing back coming out of the academy ready to take over from Gusto. Felt like someone came out every year for a while. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like Genesis Antwi is like probably the guy. I'm curious about that deal, if that's actually going to happen on a permanent to Strasbourg. That's pretty interesting to me. We'll see. What do I think about our overall out of possession play? I think it's fine. I am holding my breath until we play like better teams, though. The Igor Jesus guy they sat all of last year looks not good. You are thinking of Igor Thiago, not Igor Jesus. Igor Jesus is the guy for Nottingham Forest who hit the post in injury time. I think he's like probably pretty good. He had really nice numbers in Belgium. And like, if I don't know, non-penalty, half a non-penalty expected goal and assist a game, you're pretty up with that if you're Brentford, I think. He, if I recall, had some like injury things last year, but I think he'll be pretty good for them. I think they'll be weak, but I think he'll be pretty good. Who is a player that you are high on but nobody is talking about yet? Who is a player I'm high on that nobody is talking about yet? I'm very curious to see how Jonathan David does for Juventus this year. I think he will score a lot of goals in Serie A. Not that like people have not talked about Jonathan David over the past couple years. Like the thing is now at like Premier League level, everybody's already talked about. So there's like nobody is new. So like the not talked about guys for me are like MLS guys. Like Toronto have a defensive midfielder named Alonso Cuello, who is like 25. He's Spanish. He played college soccer in the US. I think he could start for a good Belgian team tomorrow. Like for a very low fee. Who is not talked about? I don't know. Orlando have a right back named Alex Freeman, who I think will move for a huge number. Taniel Luisay is moving to Villarreal for like $7 million from Minnesota. I think he's stupid good. He'll end up in the Premier League, I'm pretty confident of. What did I think of Diouf for West Ham? In the game against us, I thought he can cross the ball and he can't defend. Tejan Buchanan as a brace for Villarreal. That's fun. Against Girona. Oh, that's very fun. Go on, Tejan. He'll take that. I wonder what this like weird angle is. I guess he just roofed it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeremy Pino. Remember when we were in for him? That was an interesting one. Who else? Any thoughts on Buwadi at Lille? Is it hard for a player to increase their shots total without taking more low XG shots? Increasing your shot volume is the hardest skill to increase in football, in my opinion. Like you said, without just juicing it. My thoughts on Buwadi are that like it is always very promising for me when someone is able to play a reasonable number of minutes and not look totally shit at 17. Like just getting in the team at 17. This is who was the guy? Chelsea signed a guy today. Or not Chelsea, sorry. Strasbourg signed a guy today. What was his name? What was his name? This was interesting, by the way. His knee must be so mashed because that's such a favorable deal if you're Milan. What was his name? This guy, Valentin and Tangana. So, like, I don't know anything about this guy. I have not watched a tremendous amount of Stade de Reims. But I look at it and I'm like, okay, he is about to turn 20 and he's played in all competitions like 50 senior games, 50 senior 90s, and he looks like a average to slightly below average midfielder. That's totally fine. Like, I will bet the best predictor of future minutes played is minutes played. Like, if you want to predict a young player who's going to continue to play or who's going to break out, just pick a guy who's playing lots and they'll probably continue to play. And so I look at this and I'm like, I don't know. Seems like a bit much. But you compare this to like Amugu. Amugu had only played like 12 90s or something. This guy's played 50 for a similar level team to Amugu, probably a better team than Amugu. It's like, okay, sure, why not? Let's see what happens. So on Buati, I'm like, he plays, he doesn't look terrible, he's super young. Like, give me a year from now. Wasa says, me with Hato, lol, can't be bad with 7 caps in 19. It's exactly the same thing. Hato's like 120 senior appearances and 7 caps for Holland. Like, he's just not going to be terrible. Will Farrell, can we see your fantasy football team before you and all the rest of us lose interest in fantasy football for the team? Yeah, my team sucks, bro. My team is terrible. I've already lost interest. This was the team I picked. I picked Guardiola. Guardiola's injured. I had no idea. Kudus, Matoma, Ekitike, Watkins, Tierno Berry, who's like not playing. Leeds goalkeeper Bullet Sponge, Munoz, Fernandez, and Sarr. So I probably actually had a pretty good. Did I have a good points week this week? No, probably not. Once upon a time, I was good. I came top 100K one time and close another time, but I just never have interest. I lose interest after like 1 week. There we go. Munoz will come in. Bruno, Sarr's not even going to play. There you go. So, yeah, I definitely don't. I don't do good with fantasy. Wasa, there's a picture of his knee. I saw it. Carl Anka tweeted it, and it's grim. It looks worse than my knee. It looks like my knee times 4. Given that appearances axiom, any thoughts about De Jong and De Ligt being slightly disappointing? They're only disappointing because they moved for £80 million to super teams who then did not live up to the expectations. Like, Frankie De Jong is a totally good player. If he's like very good and useful, like his only sin is he makes a tremendous amount of money, and so Barca don't want him. But like, this is a great career post Ajax. Like, you're sure, man, good for you. He will move somewhere pretty good as a free agent this summer and be good. De Ligt, I think, has like legitimately not quite lived up to his potential, but is still like a very good and useful center back. He just has not been like one of the best center backs in the world. You know what I mean? That's I think fair. Do you think we should just come in and swoop Baliba next summer? I think it's Slavia's last season, and we would then probably need a midfield player. A 4-3-3 with Moy, Enzo, Baliba, Slav. I think the number for Baliba is just going to be prohibitive. Like, I think he's good. He carries the ball through the zones really well. He's a very good presser. He wins the ball. But I think he's a pretty weak passer. and he does not get nearly enough shots for how weak a passer he is. And so I look at it and say, if it's 100 million, I'm not doing it. I'm not there. I can't get there. So that's where I'm at on Baliba. Like, I don't think that's the one. In terms of midfielders, though, like, I think Baliba gives me Kovacic vibes. That's exactly the player I've compared him to a few times. Who is the next Baliba? Yeah, like to me, if you're looking at Chelsea's midfield for next season, it's like, where is Keanu Dyer at in his development as a player? Where is that's probably the one. It's just like, where is he at? Do you want to give him CM5 spots? I don't know. But I don't think there's a Baliba move there. But if Chelsea got off of Lavia next summer, which I think is impossible, he makes too much money and the fee was too big. I don't think there's a move for him. But let's say you were able to get off of him, I think there are a lot of interesting players that you can do. Like Manu Kone, like Ismail Kone, I think is another player. Like, I thought this is a player that like Brighton would go get. I think he's really interesting. I would not be shocked if Chelsea still came back and were like, Kobbie Mainoo. What do you think? I don't know. We'll see. We could go back to our favorite watering hole, go get Iari. I don't know. Boudaoui I like a lot. A little bit older, but fun player. Like, you could get him for nothing, and it would be very reasonable. Would I still do a swap deal with Real Madrid for Enzo? I remember you were talking about it before, but have your thoughts changed after the World Cup? I don't know. I still love Tchouaméni and Camavinga, though. Like, they're so good. I just think their wages are really high, so it's like hard to judge how you would do one of those deals. You know what I mean? But I still love those two guys. I think they're so good. I think they're ridiculous. Camavinga is one, especially. Camavinga I look at and like, if he became available for an even remotely reasonable price, I would do it. I think there would be so much for you there. Like, in a world where you could move Lavia, the things I would do for Camavinga would just be a joke. And it also adds a deeper left-footed player, which you don't have. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine the things that Camavinga would do? I don't think they even paid that big a fee for him. I don't think it was huge. Boudaoui will not scale up physically. He's built like those East African long distance runners. I don't know. I think that body type actually does okay in the Premier League if you can just get through yards. At what point do we start to sign older age players? We will get to a point where we need to win now, and signing 18-year-olds won't help. I don't think there is any world where we sign older players. I think last summer was the summer where you looked at and they signed a couple 25-year-olds in Neto and Tosin. I don't think there is any season where Chelsea will start. I don't think under this ownership, Chelsea will ever have a window like what Arsenal had, where it is Gyökeres and Eze for 140 million combined. I think that will never happen under this ownership. And I think that's right. I think that's correct. I think there's so much risk in that. I think the real, for Chelsea, it's like, again, if you buy at 20 and then by 22 they're really good, and if you're smart about that progression, like, you always have a new player coming in who is ready to be really good. This season it's Estevão and Andre Santos are ready to be very good. What is Josh this season? What is Josh next season? Like, that's tremendous. Could be tremendously valuable for you. Manan Pandya says Camavinga or Wharton if given the choice. Now that's a really fun question because Wharton is probably the other player that's on the list. Probably Wharton, because if it goes wrong with Wharton, you can get out of it so easily because he's English. He's also not already making huge wages the way Camavinga will be. But I'd be so in for Wharton. I would be so in. But again, it's like if you have Wharton and you have Caicedo and you have Enzo and you have Andre and you have it's just you need a lot of guys. Blower Raspberry says you need mature players in their prime to be successful. The thing is, like, these players will eventually be mature and in their prime. Like Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, by the end of next season, will have like 250 senior games in World Cups, in Club World Cup finals, in Champions League finals, in hopefully Champions League finals. They will have won trophies. They will have played a huge number of high caliber important games. Like, those are the mature players in their prime. They are. That's what they are. You know what I mean? Like, Enzo is about to he turns 24 in 2 months. So by the end of next season, he will be 25 and will be like having been one of the best midfielders in the world for 3 years. Like, it's a real, that's the experience. Chelsea U says, I saw you're on the Max Diamond train too now. Hard not to be. That kid is ridiculous. That kid is a joke. Like, I don't even, like, he's going to play real minute. Like, I bet you he's going to clear 1,000 minutes for Arsenal this year. Like, he is a joke. A joke of a player. I like, and like, it is his movement to create separation for himself to receive so he has space to speed up and go at people is a joke. Like, at 15 years old, it is hilarious. Hilarious how good that kid is. Like, I think Nwaneri is good, right? Like, I think Nwaneri is, like, interesting good, though. I don't think he's, like, joke good. I think he's interesting good. I think Dauman is a joke, like Lamal Estevão. Like, Lamal Estevão and Dauman. Left-footed right wingers, have fun. The next, it's over for a decade. They're a joke. Let's see. On the passing EV stuff and swapping midfielders, those cheat code passers like Cruz and Messi feel like the most valuable thing in football. 100%. So valuable. So valuable. Next year could be Kenda, Achimpong, 100%. Do you think they keep the squad this young and sell our players as they reach 26, 27? No, I think some players will move out at 26, 27, but I don't think like Caicedo is going to be sold at 27. I don't think Enzo is going to be sold at 27. I don't think whatever winger you want to talk about is going to be sold. I don't think that is going to be true. I think, like, do I think Cucurella will go at 29? Yeah. Do I think Tosin will go at 29? Yeah. Do I think not Reece James? Probably not. But, like, will those guys get moved at 28, 29? Yeah, probably. Somebody asked me what profile do I think Chelsea are missing. And the two profiles that I think Chelsea are missing are a scorer from the left wing and a right-footed center back who can really, really, really pass. Like, I think Josh is good, and I'm really excited for him, but, like, he's not a passer, and I don't know if he'll ever be a passer. Like, if we were to buy a center back, like Harwood Bellis, you could do so much worse. 3P says, I don't know if you saw this going around on Twitter, but what are your thoughts on the idea of usage-driven football as one person made a video on it? Is there already models that are available to the public? So, the guy who made the video is a guy called Finn Leister Smith. Let me put this off screen because I don't want to dox my LinkedIn. But Finn and I have been chatting for a really long time about stuff, and he sent me the video. I don't know why I pulled this up because I'm not going to show you my screen. Finn sent me the video, and so it's usage in football videos. Let me see. And so his video, this is really funny. Whatever. I should have just not closed the tab that I just had. Whatever, I don't care. So the fun thing about this video is that it is based on an article that I wrote like 4 years ago. And so it's really cool that it's like popped a lot. So like I would recommend you go watch it. Like it's a very good video. He does a really, really good job. But he wrote it because I wrote this 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, holy shit, about controlling for, basically the backstory was TFC had a designated player named Alejandro Pozuelo. He was like a Barca Academy kid who had like disgusting XG plus XA, but G plus hated him. He was not even near the best 11. He was a league average attacking midfielder. And the reason he looked so good is because of usage. When you looked at the amount of value that he had as a player, so the amount of G plus, the amount of possession value that came into him, he was by far the highest burdened player, by far the highest usage player in the entire league. So even though he created a bunch of useful stuff, he was actually not creating enough for how much he was taking in. And so that article Finn and I spoke about at the beginning of the summer, and then he made that video. And so I am really, really glad. So I'm really glad that it popped for him. But yeah, this was like a thing that I did 5 years ago, was looking at usage. And the funniest thing is, like, so on ASA we only post about MLS and NWSL and whatever. And the funny thing is that I did this model. I ran it on the Premier League to double check it, to be like, okay, does it match? And the players at the top for the Premier League were like Bruno Fernandes and all the same players who like, I think he shows some players. I gotta find the chart. Memphis Depay, Kevin De Bruyne was at the top of the list back then. Some of these guys weren't here, obviously, in the league. But it was like Bruno, Kevin De Bruyne, Mo Salah. Like, it was all the same guys who were super high for usage. So I think it's really cool. I'm glad that it popped. I think usage is so valuable. It's one of the things that, like, when I think about the players from bad teams who are scaling up to Chelsea, it's one of the reasons I bet against that scale up sometimes, is that like Omari Hutchinson. If Omari Hutchinson came back to Chelsea, he's not getting as many touches as he got at Ipswich, and that's bad for his production at Chelsea. So it's like, yes, you get the benefit of playing with better players, but no, you get the hit of you're not going to get the ball as much. So we'll see. Jackson Shuttleworth, what's your opinion on Elliot Anderson? PSR sale, I don't really think about him at all. Chelsea Youth says score from the left wing, enter Ryan Kavuma McQueen, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but the kid is 101. We spoke about him earlier, actually, and that I was saying I suspect that he will probably get a debut this year, somewhere in there. But the kid's fun. The kid's fun, and he can definitely shoot. When people begin to use this stat inaccurately on lower league players on Twitter, yeah, that'll be fun. Will Farrell got to head off. Great stream, Kieran. Thanks for coming, my friend. I'm glad you enjoyed. 3P says, I'm shocked it took this long as these stats are already involved in hockey and basketball. The thing is, it's like awkward in soccer to use because there are many more possessions, but many fewer end-in stuff for you. Many fewer. What is this? What did I say? Many fewer end-in stuff. So like if you just use possessions ended, it doesn't really work. When I did it, we played a lot with like how did you define the end of a possession and like all of that sort of thing. It's pretty useful. Wasa did it with a very lazy percentage of shots and percentage of touches. It's very fair. Like if you look at Dimitri has a thing for center backs where on McClockbot, I think if you look at McClockbot and you look at center backs, so if I do like if I do what's his name, the Sar at Chelsea, what's his first name? I'm gonna spell it wrong. It's Mamadou, but it's not Mamadou. Is it Mamadou or Muhammadu? All right, I got the right one. Like if you look at, we'll let it load. I hope this is the right template because it'll be fun if it's not, and I'll look like a dummy. Oh my God, we've been going for 220. Okay, since we're like at the end of the stream, yeah, he has progressive pass percentage, so like the percentage of forward passes that the center backs hit. Because like yes, he has two progressive passes a game, which is bad, but like he even only has 2 because he has like 80 passes a game because he plays for a team that plays with the ball. Okay, question for you before I answer a few more and then we call it. Did you guys prefer, the people who are still here, did you guys prefer me doing the post-match pod at the beginning, so it's like structured at the beginning before we get into a whole bunch of audience stuff? Or would you prefer that I keep them separate? Because like one of the things that I've been seeing is when I do the post-match streams right after the match, they do worse for viewers and retention and like all the stuff afterwards. But when I do it as a separate stream thing where we're just going to talk about lots of stuff, but I do the thing at the beginning, it seems better when there's like a hook and then we just talk about whatever. Okay. A few people saying good like this. So if you guys like it, then I'm about it. So this is probably what we'll do for the future. So, and then it's like I can do it whatever day. Like if I do it Saturday, I do it Sunday, whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so I think you have to be careful with this. Yeah, Wassa says it's harder for me because I can't watch if I'm going home from the game. I like it being together. I find it harder to watch the streams, but sometimes prefer all the extra stuff that doesn't make the pod. Yeah, that I think one of the things that I like about doing it a little bit later is like sometimes there's like we might know about an injury more, or we might know about another deal, or like right after the game it's a lot of like this was fine, and then it takes a little bit to digest. Where like the Palace game was me just saying it was fine for like 20 minutes, and like that's not fun for anybody. But I think this is like a more cool. I think this works. Yeah, why do I think Nkunku failed? I think the big thing was just the injury, like him getting his ankles mashed and then being rushed back by Poch was like a big problem. I think that's the big one. I think Poch's return to play stuff was so bad, man. Like, I think Poch did a really good job in general with what was being asked of him. Eee! Oh yeah. That's bro, it looks like a skull. That is grim. Wow. Yeah, that boy's had some work done in there. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Pretty sure that's a predator. Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, get your last few questions in, and we'll wrap it. I'll give it 7 minutes for the last couple questions. Oh, Bedad was at Fulham. Hopefully, this is Sterling, and that's Chilwell, and he's like, yeah, you see Sterling goes inside and Chilwell overlaps. Like maybe that's the sell. Agume's fun. That's a player I'd be into for Chelsea next year. Jawe Cisse, I don't know who that is. Jawe Cisse. Who are you? Jawe Cisse. Oh, I must have spelled it wrong. DJed out. Yeah, I did. AOUI. Not even close, Kieran. Jawe Cisse. Like those numbers. A lot of passes, a lot of carries, a lot of tackles. Give it to me. United in for Lamens. Sene Lamens. Yeah, this guy has like really interesting shot stopping numbers. But I watched the video and I don't think he's that good. Was, I'm curious what you think of him. Because I saw the 14.5 and I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And then I watched the video and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But like, looks pretty good so far this season too. I'd be curious what you think, Mr. Wassa. Not going to happen, but would you be into Nico out next year, Omega in? I wouldn't, if it was a huge, if it was like a big Nico sale, I wouldn't be mad about it. I think it would be a fine. I think like there is a certain amount of healthy turnover in attacking positions. Particularly if he like let's say Nico stays this year and he has another like 10 to 15 goal season and doesn't really, and he's still like a little bit behind his XG. More the 10 side. Like let's say he has 10 goals again and he's just like, he's fine, but he's not amazing. Like I think if you move him for 60 million, you bring Amiga in for 35, you're like, whatever, you're fine with it. I think you're like, okay, we can move with it. United would have been so much better if they got Agomo Stiller and Ugochukwu. Well, I don't know who Agomo. Oh, I assume you mean Lucien Agume. Gotta be honest with you. I don't think Leslie Ugochukwu is very good. I don't think he's good enough to play for United right now. Yeah, I don't. We'll see. I don't think he is good enough to play for a good team. He must have a sweeping issue because you're facing 5.5 shots on target a game, man. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like, Antwerp weren't great. So, there's some luck to that. Is there a reason why I was so low on Raya when he moved to Arsenal? This is an OG watcher. My concerns with Mr. Raya were that he got bought after one really good season in a history of being just okay. And I was like, I don't think that's real. And I also don't think the passing and stuff is as good as it is. And I thought the fee was too big. And he's ended up being like perfectly fine and good for them. And he had made an amazing save yesterday. I didn't like it as a deal. I thought he was like fine as a goalkeeper. I thought it was the right call to move on from Ramsdale, who I think sucks. And I've been very consistent that I think sucks. I just don't think Raya was the guy. But it has mostly worked out for them. That was Victor Boniface's knee, for whoever was asking. Enzo has turned out to be different as a midfielder than they thought he would be. Box crasher versus controller. Do you think this suits him and the team more, and how good is he actually? I think that the thing with Enzo is that his predictive movement, like his ability to think about what's going to happen, is very good, which makes him very good as an off-ball attacking mover because he gets to move first. And I think he is just, it has turned out that he is just too slow to be a defensive midfielder in the Premier League. Like, he just does not have the legs to do it. Like, Chelsea could play him every week as the defensive midfielder and he'd be good, but he wouldn't be 97th percentile attacking output good. Because Enzo is actually very smart. He's a very, very smart mover. Like, you simply do not put up this level of attacking output from midfield unless you are really, really, really smart. And so Chelsea, both Pochettino and Maresca, have made the decision that, like, we would rather get the really good attacking off-ball movement and the shot getting than the deeper passing with the trade-off of the deeper defending in that. Now, one of the things I've talked about a lot that I think Chelsea should do significantly more of is, like, against packed blocks, bring him deeper. Bring him deeper to get to play through blocks. That I would like to see more of. Because it's situations where, like, actually you do want the passing and you will live with the worst defending in that situation. But, like, yeah, his attacking output last season was bananas. Like, you're really, really, really happy with that from midfield. He's a very good player, man. Enzo's legit. He's very legit. All right, we're gonna call it there. Thank you all for sticking on for the stream. If actually we can answer this one. Thomas Wilkinson turned up late. Lovely to see you. Any teams you want to play in the Champions League? Let me look at the pots. Because you play by pots, right? Let's see. Champions League phase draw. It's on Thursday. Oh, actually, before I say this, I will not be streaming next weekend because I'm going home and I won't have my stuff. So there will be no stream next weekend. There also probably won't even be a pod next weekend after Fulham because I'll be back in Canada. But that's there. Okay, I want to see the pots. Tell me the pots. Champion, no, they don't. I don't have the pots yet. Here we go. Okay, pot one. So what is it? How many teams do you get per pot? Is it 2 teams from each pot? Okay, so if it's 2 teams for each pot, because it depends who qualifies. All right, whatever. 2 teams per pot. I want Real Madrid, and I want Barca, Bayern, or PSG. I want 2 legit real ones. Like, I want 2 legit pot 1 teams. And I want one of them to be Real Madrid. I think I want Real Madrid and Barcelona, though. I think those are the 2 that I want. Pot 2, I want Leverkusen because they stink. And I want Juventus because I think that's fun. I think that's like a fun thing. Pot 3, I wouldn't hate Napoli. Napoli would be a hard one, but they'd be fun to play. And, like, towards this, like, I want walkover teams. So I'll take, like, I would like Slavia Prague. I'd be cool. PSV Eindhoven. I wouldn't mind playing Sporting actually to get Kenda against our team. I think that would be a useful benchmarking exercise. And then pot 4, I don't want Galatasaray. I don't want Newcastle. Union St. Gilloise would be fun. So you promised David. I don't want any English teams. I would like Kairat. I think that would be fun. At home. I want Kairat at home. So we can get... because I want Setpayev at Stamford Bridge. I think that'd be so fun. I think that'd be really fun. Rangers are done. They're going to go out to Club Brugge. You can't draw English teams at all. All right, cool. Yeah, I don't care. Paphos would be fun because David Luiz is there. I would like that one. So give me like Paphos and Kairat in pot 4. Give me Slavia Prague and like Bodo Glimt or something in pot 3. Give me Leverkusen and Juventus pot 2, and give me Real Madrid Barcelona pot 1. And all the long travels are at home. That's my hope. For the people who travel, give me Madrid and Barcelona away. Give me Juventus away. Give me I guess it's by pot, it's one home. Give me whatever, Barcelona away, Madrid home. Give me Juventus away, Leverkusen home. Give me Slavia Prague home. And Slavia Prague home, Bodo Glimt away, and then like Paphos away, Kairat home. That's my ideal draw. When it happens exactly, it'll be fun. The whole of the members will be applying for Cyprus away in November. I can't lie. We'll see. I gotta buy my membership for the matches that I will be attending. I'm yet to buy mine. Anyways, that's all for me. Thank you all for jumping on. Very, very fun. Very, very fun stream. This one hit. This was a good stream. We had a lot of fun on this one. So enjoy the remainder of your weekend. No stream, no pod next weekend, but I'll probably pod on like Tuesday or something when I get home. And hopefully we beat Fulham. See how it goes. That'd be nice. Again, Fulham home last year, we did not win. So would be nice to put 3 points on the board pretty early compared to last year. As always, friends, enjoy the soccer.